everyone. Welcome to STEM at Home. My name is Victor Villegas. I'll talk a little bit more in the presentation about who I am, what I do, and some fun STEAM stuff. So let me get the presentation going. All right, so I'm going to be talking about living the STEAM dream. I know many of you have probably heard of STEM. Obviously, this is STEM at Home. I like to add the A of the arts, so science, technology, engineering, art, and math. A lot of what I do is K through 12 STEAM outreach and engagement. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, my job here at Oregon State University Extension, and kind of some of the stuff that I do working as a creative information and communications technologist. Plus, we're going to go a little bit over drones, which is also something that I do. I do public drone education. This is a little image of me that I made up using an app on my iPhone, and then I went into Photoshop and kind of made it look a little bit closer to me. As I said, my name is Victor Villegas, and my official title at OSU Extension is Technology and Media Support Coordinator. So I support all faculty and staff across the state of Oregon, as well as the ag experiment stations. And I help them with a lot of tech type of stuff. A little bit of an extension, just in case you're not familiar with OSU Extension. OSU Extension provides information and expertise to help meet local challenges and help every Oregonian thrive. We're basically the public-facing side of OSU, so we take the research that is done at OSU and then share that out with the public, just like I'm doing right now, right? So to talk about what I do for a living, I kind of like to start at the very beginning when I was little. So when I was growing up, the thing that I wanted to be most, my dream career was I wanted to be a pilot, right? This is a picture of me at Magic Mountain. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old in this picture, and I just dreamt of things with wings, of flying. I didn't care for cars or trucks or anything like that, with like a lot of my friends. I just wanted to be in an airplane. I wanted to fly. That was my ultimate goal. And so growing up, I ate, slept, thought, dreamed just airplanes constantly. I was just plain crazy, pun intended. And eventually I did learn how to fly. I went to college to take airplane mechanics, and I joined the flying club, took flying lessons. I learned how to fly. This is a picture of me. However, I did not join the military and I was not a jet pilot. So full disclosure, this is actually me at an air show when I was younger, and they allowed you to take pictures next to a jet being all dressed up. And then those, yes, that is my name up there on top that says Captain V. Villegas, but those are actually pieces of paper that we taped to the airplane to make this picture. But I mean, this is what I kind of imagined that I wanted to do. Unfortunately, life happens and things go in a different direction. I had to give up my aviation dreams, or so I thought, but I did not make aviation a career per se. Another reason I wasn't able to go in the military is because I used corrective lenses, glasses, and they don't allow that for pilots in the military. So it's also very expensive to fly. So I kind of gave that up, but I did learn how to fly. I was a student pilot. I did my solo and was really close to getting my private pilot's license. I just had one test and one long distance cross-country flight to do. But again, like I say, life happens and takes you in different directions, which is okay, because you'll find out that I still delve in aeronautics and aviation. Another thing that I wanted to be was a musician. And it's not like I wanted to be a pilot and then I decided, no, I don't want to be a pilot and I want to be a musician. No, I wanted to be a pilot who was also a musician. And so growing up, I learned how to play different instruments. My parents had instruments laying around the house. They were musicians themselves. And so I naturally gravitated towards that, picked up different instruments and collected instruments and taught myself how to play different instruments. I took classes. I was in band in high school and college, and took trumpet lessons and some guitar lessons, but most of the instruments I learned how to play was by ear and by myself, you know, just getting books and teaching myself. So music has been a very, very big part of my life growing up. And I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so pretty much almost any instrument you can get in my hands, I'll eventually learn how to play and get some sound that, sounds fairly decent. I'm not an expert in any particular instrument, but I do play a lot of instruments. And I mean, this may be multiple personality things, but I also wanted to be a photographer and artist. So my grandfather on my mom's side, he was a professional photographer in Los Angeles for many years. He had a studio. And this was way back in the time when there was only black and white photography. But he was one of the very few photographers who could actually, who knew how to hand tint the photographs with color so that they look like color photographs. And this was before color photography actually existed. So they were works of arts, and I was in awe of his photography skills. And I wanted to be, in the visual arts and do that too, in addition to being a musician and a pilot, right? All at the same time. And everybody's telling me, well, just pick one, and that's like, why? I want to do it all. So I learned photography. I took classes in photography. This picture on the right-hand side is actually my first oil painting that I did. I was in first grade. I took some classes, and that particular painting, I just have a photograph because the painting I actually gave to my first grade teacher because I was very happy to be learning in school, and she was instrumental in sharing her knowledge and the passion for learning even at a very young age. So I gifted her this my first painting, and you keep on going. I want to be an artist, photographer, visual artist, musician, pilot, and I wanted to work with technology. So when computers came on the scene, I learned as much as I could about them. This is actually a picture of me when I was working at a radio station. So I got to work on one of the very first digital audio conversion. That's, some of the equipment you're seeing in there was actually, I was converting magnetic tape, reel to reel, and records. Some of you younger kids might not be familiar much with that, but I was making CDs, which also are now not made anymore. But I used to transfer music, and all those clicks and hisses and pops that records and tapes had, I would fix them with digital technology tools and improve the sound. And then I would burn these CDs that we would then put into a robotic jukebox that then I programmed using a database to tell the radio station when to play which piece of music and at what time, for what length and what tempo, so that we made sure that they weren't playing the same music back to back. And people used to call the radio station and they thought there was physical DJs there, but we actually had the robot playing CDs most of the time. We did have people every once in a while, like myself, I would give like the weather report in the morning along with the traffic report that someone else did. But for the most part, it was just technology and recordings. Eventually those CDs transferred to computers, and now they're running everything off computers now. So just an interesting tidbit from my past. However, I grew up. And this is a picture of me and my team at OSU Extension. So again, myself, Wayne and Lisa here, we support faculty and staff across the state with technology needs, so trainings and support and helping people with tech. So this is my grown up job, right? And again, we support all of these locations across Oregon. If you want to find out more about Extension service, you can go to extension.oregonstate.edu and find out all kinds of information that we share with folks. So I got some questions in the chat. Do you only use oil paint? As I'm an artist, I love to use all medium. Oh, great question. So at that time, that picture, that was oil. I have dabbled in a little bit of watercolor and ink, pen and ink, and pencil. So yeah, I love all mediums. I didn't become quite the artist that I thought I was able to be, mainly because I had so many other interests, right? So I could make things look similar, not as professional as I would have liked to. However, because of technology, I was able to use Photoshop and digitally manipulate things, right? So the digital technology and computers have allowed me to do work that is better than I could have done by hand. So lately, my tool of choice is a computer to do art. Great question, though. Yeah, if you can use all kinds of mediums, the more you do, the easier it is to get, and you can combine mediums together. So my work is not so much in the hand painting or hand art as much as in music now, because I do multiple instruments, and music is more my artistic side of things than actual visual arts. But I do a little bit of visual, like animations and things, again, using computer. Good question. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to address those. So when people ask me, what exactly do you do for a living? I like to say that I'm a bridge. And they go, oh, what do you mean a bridge? Yeah, well, I'm basically a bridge between the end users, which is faculty and staff, and sometimes the public, such as yourselves, and the university technology side of things. So the programmers, the coders, the engineers, the researchers and whatnot, those people that are the experts in their respective STEM fields. I know the different types of languages, programming, coding languages. I know how to speak the one that we call the geek speak and translate that into layman's terms so that the average citizen, the average person on the outside can understand what they're talking about. And I can also take the concerns of faculty and staff back to the programmers and say, yeah, they need this type of thing done on the website. So being able to kind of transverse the STEM side and the public education side of things puts me smack in the middle, and really I'm just a bridge. That's the main thing I do. If you're interested in what this is a picture of the Golden Gate in San Francisco. It's actually shot from the vantage point from the bottom up towards the top. And again, you can see my visual art influence here. This is part of my photography. I actually have this picture hanging in my hallway. And it's always looking to how to integrate the art into my educational technology programming. These just are a few of the different technologies that I support at OSU. Drupal and WordPress are website platforms. Video conferencing, such as what we're doing here via Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom support, especially right now during COVID. So I help other people do webinars and Zoom meetings and educational programming remotely. Adobe Creative Suite, remember I told you about Photoshop, and I do InDesign and Illustrator and video editing, which is Premiere. So helping educators use those apps to create educational content. I help people with Google Apps, so Google Docs, Google Slides. This presentation is done in Google Presentation app. Emerging technology, so part of my job is also looking ahead to see what is the latest technology that is coming along. When I first started here at OSU about 8 years ago, one of my first jobs was teaching people about smartphones and mobile devices like iPads, iPhones, and Android devices. People were still using, the flip phones, and they weren't sure about this new fandangled thing that was called the mobile devices like the iPad. And so I had to teach people how to use iPads and why they should be using iPads. Of course, now everyone has at least one or two of these things now. And I've gone on to teach new technologies. So, robotics, drones, all these wearable technologies that are now starting to come out. So training people on those new emerging technologies is part of my job. Obviously, creativity and innovation, social media, webinars, media production, Box is kind of a file archiving thing similar to like Google Drive, SUAS drones. SUAS stands for Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems. So everybody mostly knows them as drones, but in the research side of fields, we call them SUAS. And then STEM and STEAM education. But this is what most people out in the world actually know me for. It's I'm actually the world's #1 creator of parody songs about drones. The Weird Al of drones, basically. So online, I go as Drone Singer. I have a Twitter account and YouTube and Facebook, and I've done a lot of interviews. This one was an interview for Network World Online, and where they talk about me as a technologist, making songs about drones to educate the public on the safe and responsible use of drones. So this is my Twitter account here. I've been doing this since about 2014, and it's gotten me a lot of attention. I've been able to travel within the United States to talk about drone education. I've gone to Washington, D.C. like 3 or 4 times already. A couple of them were for a, they have a biannual, it's every 2 years, USA Science and Engineering Festival. So USDA NIFA invited me to go exhibit drones in agriculture at this science convention and talk to kids about drones and technology. Sang some of my songs and just had a great time engaging with youth about drones. So drones are cool is a hashtag that I use. It's my personal hashtag, and it's actually part of a song. It's a song that I've made. It's a parody that I'm actually going to sing right now. If you're wondering, that little nano drone right there, that's my little drone Juan. He actually has a Twitter account, and his name is Little Drone Juan, so you can find him on Twitter at Little Drone Juan. I take him everywhere I go, and I take pictures with him and put that up on social media. So I also have him here hanging around my neck. So let me stop my screen share so you can see right here. So if I can put him up closer to the camera. You see him right there? Little Drone Juan says hi. Oh, back. So in order to sing a song, I got to get my ukulele out. And being OSU, I have to have an orange ukulele. Question, what is your favorite job of all of them? Oh man, do you have to make me decide? I love all my work is just all mixed up together. I talk about drones, that's part of my aviation thing. I use technology. I use the visual arts to show things using videos. So I say my job is the favorite one because it puts all of my passions and interests that I had growing up as a kid together in one. So my OSU job is my favorite job. How's that? All right, so this song, actually, I need some audience participation in this one in the chorus, and you'll know exactly what to sing and repeating what I say in the chorus. I'll kind of point to you. So here we go. This is a song that talks about drones and drone technology. Yeah. Let me tell you about drones. Just listen to me sing. Yeah, they are cool flying robots with awesome technology. They have IMUs to help stabilize. Some have GPS to guide them in the sky and fly autonomously, singing, yeah, 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 yeah. This is where you repeat, yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud, say it clear. Drones are cool, yeah. Drones are cool. There are many kinds of drones. Some are small, some are big. There are even drones you can race and fly FPV. Yeah, they're multi-rotor drones, some are fixed wing, they are controlled via radio frequencies. They are used for many different things. Singing, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud, say it clear. Drones are cool, yeah. Drones are cool. One more verse. If you want to fly drones, please fly responsibly. Stay away from airplanes, airports, yes indeed. Yeah, read the manual through and through, learn to calibrate, or you might crash and it's too late. Fly your drone, but fly safely. Singing, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say it loud, say it clear. What? Drones are cool. Drones are cool. Yeah. So that's usually a song I start off with in my workshops to talk a little bit about drones. And we'll be going a little bit about technologies that I sing about in that song. Hope you enjoyed that. So here's little drone Juan at Washington, D.C. at the National Air and Space Museum. And here's little drone Juan on the suit of an astronaut, the NASA. Here's little drone Juan acting as an Ask an Expert. And we field a lot of questions from not just in Oregon, but across the US and even the world about people wondering about drones in agriculture and also drones in education, which is two of my specialties. I've even had people from Australia. I've done presentations virtually and in person. I got invited to the World of Drones Congress, Congress out in Australia last year. And so I had a blast going to Brisbane and talking about drones and education. And little drone Juan went with me and we took pictures out there too. That was an awesome thing. USDA NIFA sponsored me. I was part of a team that shared information about research in unmanned aircraft systems or drones in agriculture through a learning network that we had. And because of my communications background, I was the one that set up Facebook and Twitter and did the webinars for this group. And I still run the UAS and Ag Learning Network Facebook group or Facebook page. So if you want to learn more about news and information on research and drones and ag, you can look that up. And let's see any other question. Okay, got a link. Thanks for the link there. So that's led to a lot of collaboration and work with other organizations that are involved in education and drones. So I'm sure you're familiar with some of these here, obviously Oregon State University, but I've also worked in collaboration with the Oregon Department of Aviation, the Oregon Department of Education, and Situ was a drone company that's up in like the Hood River area. Intel, well, who hasn't heard of Intel? SOAR Oregon, Parrot, which is a company that produces drones, and FLIR Systems, they're out in Whistlerville, and Roswell Flight Test Crew, a couple of folks up in the Hillsborough area who do drone education as well. So we worked together to do a series of webinars that eventually turned into a drones in education workshop for educators. So teachers come to OSU for 3 days during the summer and learn how to use drones in their classrooms. And this is something I've been a part of, and I coordinate this. Obviously, we were able to do this year because of COVID, and we're looking to see how we can translate to this as an online workshop in the future. Can you fly the little drone? Yes, I am going to fly, not necessarily little drone Juan. Unfortunately, he's retired from flying because one of his motors burnt out, and he just kind of hangs around my neck and goes with me. I used to fly him, and I actually have a drone, believe it or not, that is smaller than little drone Juan. I call it the world's smallest drone, and I'll show you that one, which is this little black one. it actually fits on top of the little drone Juan. See if I can get this off my neck and get it closer to the camera. So there's little drone Juan, and there's the world's smallest drone right next to him. So he fits like right on top of drone Juan. That's how small he is. Just a little bit bigger than my thumbnail. And yes, this thing actually flies. I don't know if his battery is charged, but let me see if I can connect that. If not, I have another little drone that I fly for you. So let's, this is actually the little transmitter for the world's smallest drone, and he fits inside of the transmitter. And when we turn on, when we fly drones, we turn on our transmitter first, so it gets a clear signal, and then we turn on the drone and put it on a flat level surface. And the reason for that is that the little drone has sensors to sense what horizontal is, and we calibrate that when we turn it on. But it has to have the transmitter on before, so it could connect to the transmitter first. Otherwise, we can have what's called a flyaway, and it can receive signals from somewhere else. And we want to make sure we bind it to this particular transmitter. So I'm going to turn on the transmitter first. Got a little light going on there. And then I'm going to put this on a flat level surface and turn it on to calibrate it. And then I'm going to bind it. And I don't have a lot of space here, but we'll see. We'll see if I can fly it. So here we go. There we go, world's smallest drone, flown right for in Zoom. How'd you like that? If you can see, it's fairly stable horizontal. It's so little though that any little bit of air currents will move it around, so it's a little tricky to fly. These little drones are harder to fly than the bigger ones because they have less mass. The more mass you have, the more stable they are. So this one, if I just blow on it, I don't fly this outside because the wind will just take it, right? It's so light and little. But it's pretty cool that the technology that we have in these little ones are very similar to the ones in the big ones. They have an IMU, inertial movement unit, so it senses when it is going to one side or the other, and the little computer inside of it will compensate for it and tilt it in the other direction so it flies straight and level. And then the transmitter is only controlling the up and down or the rotation in order to fly in different directions. And I'll show you with a bigger drone how that actually works, the physics behind it. So that will be your STEM lesson for today. So anyway, world's smallest drone. I'll have another one fly a little bit later that does video transmission. So here's another drone right here. It's like little drone Juan, except this one has a camera. I don't know if you can see that. The very front, that circles a camera. And there is a micro SD card that you can record the video from that. Now these little drones, their flight time is very limited. They only fly for about 2 to 4 minutes at the most, depending on how fast you're flying them, and the motors are on there. They have a little battery, a rechargeable battery on the bottom, and then you can plug them in with a cable via USB to recharge them. So cool technology in a very small package. All right, let's see what's the next thing here. So yeah, like I said, I was invited by USD and NIFA to go to the USA Science and Engineering Festival and had a great time flying drone. I was flying the world's smallest drone off of a kid's hands. You can see on the picture there on the left, it's a girl having her hand out. And oh, that's actually little drone Juan there. If you look really closely, the orange drone there that has just flown off of her hand. And then obviously I do STEAM education, outreach, and engagement. So I do a lot of exhibits, I do workshops, I do presentations, talk to kids all, not just in Oregon, but in different states. And like I said, even in Australia. So the picture on the left-hand side there is me at OSU with a group of young kids who are part of a mariachi STEAM camp. So we have kids come to OSU for a whole week during the summer. They learn about mariachi music. They practice mariachi music, but when we have them here, we also expose them to the science, technology, engineering, and math behind music. So they learn about digital audio recording, and they learn how to record their music into a computer and edit and produce music. We'll also learn about the different mathematics behind making music and instruments. Do you know that math was involved? Well, let's take, for example, one of the guitars there. Each string is a different thickness. It's a different length. They will vibrate at a different frequency, and that's how we hear a different note. So the difference between a C and a D or an A or whatever note you're playing is how much that vibration is, right? One is vibrating faster and one is slower. The faster the vibration, the higher the pitch of the sound. And so there's actually science behind music, and we teach them all about that. So here's the STEM side of things. We're actually going to learn a little bit about drones now. What exactly is a drone? Well, most people think it's like these multi-rotors, quadcopters looking things, but a drone is basically any flying object that is unmanned. So unmanned means there is not a human being controlling it versus like an airplane. You know, if you go, you fly from, you know, Portland to San Diego or Portland to New York, you're flying in an airplane that is being piloted by a human being. A drone is not piloted by an onboard pilot. It can either be piloted by someone on the ground, like the military drones, or it could actually fly autonomously. Some of these drones have computers on board, and they are programmed to fly certain missions on their own without any human intervention, because we've coded or programmed them to fly it. So that's basically a drone. A drone is a well, not necessarily self-flying, because you can still control them from the ground, right? But there's no physical pilot on board. They are making drones that are large enough to carry people, but the people, they still call them drones because those people are just passengers. They're not the pilots. And so that's the difference. A drone is actually being controlled electronically, remotely, or via program or artificial intelligence on the drone itself. Question, how can one join the camp, and would there be a virtual one? Yes, for the STEAM Mariachi camp, that is run through Extension 4-H, and it's open to middle school and high school students. It's typically been run through Washington County 4-H. So a lot of the youth are from like Hillsborough, Forest Grove, and Portland area. However, we are looking to do something virtual. I did do a virtual, not a STEAM camp, but a mariachi STEAM workshop this summer. Because of COVID, we couldn't meet in person. And so we had a virtual version that was a little bit smaller. And we're looking to expand that to other areas besides Washington County. So all across Oregon and maybe other states too. I've had interest from folks asking how they could participate in that. So if we do develop it further, we'll make sure that pre-college programs is aware of that and we can promote it that. So good question. Also, let me know if you would be interested in something like that. I know Yamhill County has contacted me asking how they can implement it in their county too. So here's some examples of drones. So what most people are familiar with is probably the picture on the left. This is a quadcopter. This happens to be one that's made by DJI. This is one of the first versions, which is actually one I have, which has a GoPro camera on the bottom. The newer versions have an integrated camera with a gimbal, so it actually will self level. So if the drone is in like high wind situation, the camera will counteract those movements and give you very smooth video. So that you can't tell that there's wind out there. And these drones keep on getting better and better. That happens to be a 4-motor, 4-propeller drone. So we call that a quadcopter, but it is a multi-rotor because it has multiple rotors, multiple motors. There's a bigger drone that I have that I showcase. I don't have it with me because it's at the university, and I'm working remotely these last few months, but I usually take this bigger one. That one has 6 motors and 6 propellers, and that one is called a hexacopter, right? Hex for 6. There's an even bigger drone. I don't have one of these, but I've seen them that have 8 motors and 8 propellers. What do you think that one would be called? And this is again where math comes into this. So a quad means 4, right? A hexacopter, hex means 6. What do you think we call a multi-rotor with 8 motors and 8 propellers? Any guesses? What geometric set? Yes, indeed, an octocopter. Very good. And there's even a rare version of multi-rotor that only has 3, and we call that a tricopter. But yes, the octocopter, just like an octagon, is that shape. So we use mathematics in a lot of these things, right? Now the picture on the right is the OSU Beaver 1. This was one of the first fixed wings. I believe this was the College of Forestry that uses one. This is several years old. They don't use it anymore. It's actually hanging in one of the classrooms as like a museum piece. But so this is also a drone. It's not a quadcopter. It's not a multi-rotor. It's more like an airplane. So it's more like a flying wing. If you look really closely, the propeller and the motor are in the back, in the middle and the back of this flying wing. And so it looks more like a traditional airplane, right? So the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, considers any remotely controlled aircraft as a drone. And so model airplanes and model helicopters are also considered drones, because why? They don't have a physical pilot on board and are being controlled remotely. We control these things via radio frequencies, just like my song said. So how does a drone fly? Okay, and here we're going to get a little bit into physics and even a little activity that you could do at home. Well, let's go back. My DJI drone. I also have googly eyes, and I like to put googly eyes on everything. So this is my example drone to show you kind of how drones fly. So if you look really closely, these are propellers, okay, here, and these propellers are curved, all right, just like a airplane has a propeller on the front, right, that spins. Well, these have it, but they spin on top of the quadcopter. And there's a curve to this propeller, right? So the top of it is curved, and there's more of a curve on top than on the bottom. Now, it's basically kind of like an airplane wing. So if you've seen an airplane wing, they're curved on top and flatter on the bottom. That is because the curve is used to help to produce lift, okay? So we have air molecules, right? And air molecules have mass. How do we know that air molecules have mass? It's because if you're going down a, driving down, it's like on a freeway or a road, and you roll down the window and you stick out your hand out in the air, what's going to happen to your hand? It gets pushed back, right? Why is it getting pushed back? Well, those are air molecules that are hitting your hand, and there's so much air molecules that mass is pushing on your hand and pushing your hand farther back. Now, what happens when you tilt your hand like this? Now there's not as much surface area, and it's easier to go because the air molecules are not butting up against the palm of your hand, right? But if you curve your hand a little bit and make it kind of like a wing where it's curved more on the top than on the bottom, you can actually angle it just a little bit, and you'll feel that your hand kind of goes up. You're actually kind of producing lift on there. So a better example, and this you can do at home if you have a sheet of paper, just a regular 8.5 by 11. Grab one right here. So this is an experiment. I'm going to fold this piece of paper, well, not fold it, but kind of curve it like this so that there's a curve on the top. And I am going to blow air, not on the bottom, but over the top of this. And you see what happens. Move my bike away so you don't get so much of the air on top of this. So watch what happens when I blow air over the top. So what exactly is happening there? These air molecules are rushing over the top. The faster the flow of air molecules over the top of that curved surface, it's producing a low pressure area. And that low pressure area is actually just sucking that curved surface up, and that's producing lift. So a lot of people think that it's the air underneath the wing that is pushing the wing up. And there's a little bit of that, but most of the lift is being produced from the low pressure area on the top of the curved wing. So if I blow on the bottom of this, it's not as efficient as if I do it over the top. All right, it's a little magic trick you can do with your friends and show them, hey, I can lift this paper from the top instead of the bottom. That's basic physics and flight. So we have our drone, right? And we have our wings. The faster these propellers spin, the more the air molecules are going faster over the top, produces more of a low pressure area, and that low pressure area creates lift, and it's basically sucking the drone up into the air, right? That's lift. Now, according to physics, for each action, there's an equal, and Sir Isaac Newton, remember the guy that kind of discovered gravity, where the apple fell. So he has these laws of physics that he came up with. And one of his is that for each action is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So if we have lift, what is lift countering? What's the opposite reaction that lift is trying to counteract? Okay, what is it that holds us towards the ground and wants to hold the drone back down? Any guesses? Starts with a G. Gravity. Excellent. Yes, gravity. So gravity is holding things down. Things that have mass, gravity acts upon. And we want to break gravity. In order to break gravity, we actually have to have a different force that is stronger in order to get lift off. And that is lift. At one point, lift is going to be stronger than gravity once, at a certain speed that these propellers are moving at is producing enough low pressure area that then gravity is going to be stronger than, lift is going to be stronger than gravity. And at that point, if it is stronger, that means the object is now going to go up because it is pulling away from the force of gravity. Gravity is still affecting it, okay? But lift is actually stronger at that point than gravity. And so we have liftoff, we go up. Whether it's a quadcopter, multi-rotor, or helicopter, or an airplane, it's all the same principle. All right. So we got all of these propellers going at the same speed, right? And they're going fast enough that we're producing low pressure around all of them, and lift is stronger than gravity. And we're going up and up and up and up and up. How do we stop the drone from keep on going all the way up? Well, we slow down the motors a little bit to the point where lift equals gravity. And then what happens? If everything is equal, where's the drone going to go? It's not going to keep on going up because lift is now equal to gravity. But if it's equal and gravity is not stronger than lift, then it's not going to go down either. And so we just kind of stay in space like this, hovering. And that's how helicopters and quadcopters hover, right? Because now lift and gravity are equalized, and therefore we're not going up or down, and we just stay in one position. Now an airplane can't do that because an airplane has to have forward momentum, okay? It has to have what we call thrust, which is a different law of physics, in order to stay ahead, because if it stops, there's no air molecules flying over the wing anymore, and it'll just drop out of the sky. So it has to always have forward momentum. The advantage that multi-rotors have, or single rotors like a helicopter, is that they're producing their thrust and lift in a vertical instead of a horizontal forward direction, right? So that's how we're able to hover. Okay, so we know what lift is, right? We know how the drone can go up. What if we want to move the drone, in a certain direction, left to right, forwards or backwards? Well, it's basically modifying the lift. So if we can create more lift on one side than the other, we can make it to be more of a low pressure area. It's going to create more lift, right? In order to do that, we have to make the propellers go even faster on one side of the drone than the other. So basically, if we want the drone to fly in this direction, what we're going to do is increase the lift by making these two motors go faster and slowing these to go slower. That means there's more lift on this side. It's going to lift on this side. It's going to tilt and then fly in that direction. If we want to make it go the opposite way, we have to slow these two motors down, increase the speed of the two motors on the opposite side. And now we got more lift on this side. It tilts and then moves in this direction. Make sense? Same thing if we want to go forwards or backwards. Now we have to, if let's say we want this to go forwards towards you, right? We're going to have to increase the lift on the back two motors, decrease the lift on the front. So these go slower, these go faster. And now we tilt forward and it goes towards you. If we slow these back ones down and increase the front ones, it's then going to go the opposite direction, all right? So now we're having control. This is called pitch forward. Okay, you're pitching forward, pitching backwards. And then this is called roll. So we're rolling to the left, rolling to the right, all right? And now we have lift, and we have pitch and roll. Okay, here's the tricky one. What if we want to have the drone actually rotate and turn like this? Not roll to the left or right, but actually turn to the left or to the right. We still use the lift, but it's done in a slightly different way. We still use two motors versus two other motors, but instead of being the two motors on one side or the front and the back, they're actually the diagonal motors. So if you look, it's hard to see it on camera, but let's see. I don't know if you can see it there. This motor has a black tip as well as the one across from it diagonally. That has a black tip. This one here has a silver tip, and this one has a silver tip. Okay, so they're opposite each other. The black ones rotate to the right. The left ones rotate to the left or counterclockwise, okay? Because if all the motors and all the propellers actually went to the right, the momentum would take over and this thing would just be spinning to the right all the time, right? Because an object in motion tends to want to stay in motion, okay? That's another one of Newton's laws. And we don't want that. So Dave actually made the propellers and motors go in opposite directions so that if you have these two going to the right and these two going to the left, it stabilizes, you know, just like lift and gravity was stabilized and we weren't going anywhere. That makes the drone stay in one position and that's not rotating left or right. And that rotation we call yaw, okay? Well, let's say we want it to yaw to one side or the other. So what do? We increase the speed of the diagonal ones, of the ones that are going clockwise if we want to go to the right, slow down just a little bit, doesn't take a lot, slow down a little bit of the ones that are going counterclockwise. And now because of the rotation and the force of torque, we are going to rotate or yaw, you know, what they call yaw, to the right. If we slow these that go clockwise a little bit and we speed up the ones that go counterclockwise, now we're going to turn to the left. Okay, my left, your right, left. I know that's a little bit backwards, but I think you get it. Does your drone have eyes? Yes, it has googly eyes right here. Look at that right there. And this one has a mouth actually too. This is where the battery goes in. I'm not going to open it right now, but I have some lights that usually light up in there. He just doesn't have his battery charged right now. So I'm looking to turn him into kind of like a robotic puppet that I can control. Okay, so we learned about what? Lift, and we learned about roll and pitch. And what's this one called, remember? What is rotation around the center point? That's called yaw, like yaw, man. Okay, so now we can actually control the drone in 3D space. We can control how high, how much to the left, the right, forward and backwards, and we can send radio signals to speed up or slow down these motors in conjunction with a computer that's on board trying to stabilize things to speed and slow up those motors in order to control that movement of the drone. And that's how drones fly. Kind of simple when you think about it. It's all science and physics. Do drones only take batteries or motors too? Well, all of these here are all electrical drones. So yes, they take batteries. They have electrical motors. Some of the bigger drones, and I'm talking really big drones, they're looking at, I've seen a couple of them that have jet engines on them. So the motors are jet, and obviously they use fuel. There is a research going on through OSU, through the College of Engineering. One professor is experimenting what's called a hybrid drone. So the drone, and it's much bigger, I believe it's a hexacopter, has electrical motors, it has batteries, but it also has an onboard combustible engine, so a gas engine, right? Not a very big one, but and that gas engine runs a generator that runs electricity to power the batteries, to power the motors. And so batteries can only last so long, right, without being recharged. It's actually the limiting factor for a lot of the drones, that electricity, to get more power, you have to make a bigger battery, and a bigger battery weighs more. And so you kind of have to balance the weight of the battery with the power that that battery size can give you. So in this research that this professor is doing, he's trying to see if he can use a gas-powered motor to run a generator that generates electricity to charge the battery while in flight, thus giving the drone a longer flight time. So there's a lot of research being done in how we can either use gasoline motors to increase the charge time, or can we produce better batteries that last longer and weigh less? So lots of research being done in that, because that's our biggest limiting factor in terms of drones. Remember, I told you that the little ones only fly for about 2 to 4 minutes. These here about this size can fly from about 10 to maybe 20 minutes with the newer version ones. Some of the bigger ones, bigger batteries, they can fly 45 minutes. It's rare to have drones that fly for an hour. There are that possibility. And then of course, like the military ones, they can fly for many hours and some of them for days, but those are more like airplanes. They're more efficient. So the airplane type, the multi-rotor drones are holding their whole weight with these, and the motors constantly have to be going. If all the motors stop, this thing just falls out of the sky. But if you have a drone that's more like an airplane, aircraft, well, as long as they have forward momentum, they're producing lift. And so they can fly these fixed wing drones up high, and then let them glide, turn off the motor that's pushing them, but their gravity's kind of bringing them down. They're still producing lift because they're going forward momentum, and that keeps them in the air, and they get down to a lower altitude. They turn back on the motor and it goes back up to altitude. And so you're saving energy because you're not constantly having the motor all the time like the multi-rotors have to have. So that's an advantage of a larger fixed wing aircraft over a multi-rotor. A disadvantage is, well, if you got this big old airplane-like thing and you have to have forward momentum, you have to have a runway to take off from. So you have to have a lot of space. Also, when you're landing, you have to have a lot of space. Whereas something like this, you only have to have about 2 feet of ground, or take it out from the top of a building or a truck. You don't need a lot of space, and you can just go vertically up. So that's the advantage that helicopters and multi-rotors have over fixed wing aircraft. Great questions. So we learned how a drone flies. So what are drones good for? Well, I like to say that drones are great for the 3 Ds: dull, dangerous, and dirty work, okay? So what's an example of a dull job? And there's many, but let's concentrate on one. This is research that was actually done through the University of Arkansas. Oregon State University was also involved in this project. And what you're seeing here is a picture taken from above at a nursery field. So nurseries are those like plant farms. If you go to Home Depot, you find all these plants that you buy. Well, those plants actually come from these plant farms, these nurseries, and we got tons of them here in Oregon. Traditionally, those plant farms, they need to know how many plants they have, right? And so they have to go and you count them one by one. And there's hundreds and thousands of these plants at these huge nurseries. So you can imagine how long it takes to count each individual plant and say, oh yeah, we have, 3,452 plants in this, half-acre plot here. And so the researchers said, well, can we use drones to speed up the process? So what you're seeing here on the right-hand side is a picture, but it's running through an algorithm on a computer that is identifying each individual tree. It can tell the difference between the tree and the ground, obviously because of color, but also shape. And so it will identify and put a dot. And now the computer can count this a lot faster than a human being. It can say, oh yeah, there's 300, 400, 375 plants in this section of the field. Whereas if you had a human being doing this, it would take them, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I mean, this computer just did it in seconds, and the computer can be much more accurate. A person might forget that I already went through this row of trees or whatnot, right? So computers are great at doing these dull jobs that, you can imagine counting plants for a living, day in and day out, how long and boring and dull that would be. And computers don't get tired. As long as they have electricity and they're given a job to do, they'll just do it all day long. So that's a great example of a drone doing a dull job. Okay, what was the second D? The second D was dangerous, right? So here's a YouTube video. This was done in conjunction with National Geographic.
All right, so let's use the drone to...
I wanted to share the Marham crater that's located in the island nation of Vanuatu by bringing a team with me and documenting this place in a way that's never been seen. The drone that we used is called the Phantom 2 Vision Plus. We had also GoPros mounted onto these particular drones with gimbaled devices so that no matter how much they shook, the video remained stable. We were able to take a series of thousands of photographs around the top of the crater and then process those using a specialized software to render the first of its kind 3D model of the volcano from inside. We were fortunate in that we got the footage we were looking for, and unfortunate in the fact that we lost our drones. They fell to their demise, some into the lava and others just from the incredible amount of heat and unstable air.
All right, so that is obviously an example of a dangerous job that a drone can do. As human beings, we can only get so close to a live volcano with that heat, very intense. And a drone allowed them to get pictures and video of the inside of the caldera of a volcano that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise, right? Drones are great for that. As you heard, they lost the drones because of the intense heat. However, because the video was being transmitted wirelessly, they now have video they can use for research, okay? So yeah, we sacrificed a drone, but we didn't sacrifice a human life to do that research. So that's an example of a dangerous duty that a drone can do. And now I'll show you the third one, which is, let's say, the first one was dull, next one was dangerous, and this one is dirty job, okay? Oh, there's a question in the chat. Do you know how big the biggest drone is? I do not know. We have the technology that we can convert pretty much almost any aircraft into a drone, and have a computer fly it. So technically, you can have a 747 be a drone. They have flown large commercial aircraft remotely before from the ground with no human pilot on board. So technically, that is a drone. So there really is no limit. It's as big as the airplane can be. So the possibilities are endless, but specifically which was the biggest one, I'm not sure. Facebook and Google were looking to use these very long to wing drones to provide internet service to rural areas and places like Africa that had solar powered wings or solar powered panels on the wings, and these wings were over 100 feet long. So technically those might be like the biggest drones, but they're more in development. I don't know that they've actually created any of those just yet. All right, so this is the last video here. And this is again showing a dirty job that drones are great at.
My name is Dr. Ian Kerr. I'm the CEO of Ocean Alliance, and I'm the founder and driving force behind SNOTbot. The idea behind SNOTbot is to collect physical, biological data and video and photographs from a whale without the whale knowing. And we needed a drone to collect that data. The exhaled breath condensate, the snot that the whale is blowing out, is likely to be full of all of these wonderful chemical markers that can give us insights into the lives of whale, from DNA, pesticides, metals, pregnancy hormones, stress hormones. But what we want to do is focus on the science. And we want somebody else to be giving us the tools. And we need to do that without interfering with their lifestyles. And that is what DJI is doing. So we take a regular DJI drone, we put a little platform, and to that we attach a pole. And then at the bottom of the pole we have our fabric, and that gets a collector closer to the blow. It's great for us to be able to say, okay, for this experiment, we really need thin body like the Inspire. Okay, they've got one. Well, we need a hexacopter. Okay, we've got spreading wings. We did see some snot arriving on the top of the drone. So we basically put 3 Petri dishes on the top of the Inspire 1. It was amazing. When the drone came back, I was stunned. We were literally dripping with snot in these dishes. We can go out and in one day collect 20 samples. It would take me a week with a 93-foot boat with 12 people to do that. Looking at the largest animal that ever existed on this planet, just flying down along its body and then having it blow into the drone and seeing on camera all the snot. I mean, wow. And then being able to do the analysis to look for all the different chemicals. Just a regular photo can give us photo ID. We can recognize individuals. With video footage, we can observe intimate behavior without having a giant helicopter or an airplane, which is expensive and dangerous. This is going to give us a whole new perspective. We can help conserve this animal with a $3,000 drone and a few drops of snot.
All right, so what you think about that? SNOTbot. There is a drone that is used to collect snot from a whale to do research. A very dirty job. That snot is very stinky and smelly, so you can imagine. And dangerous. It's also a dangerous thing. I mean, before they had to have this pole, you know, they go in a boat and then really long pole and try to get that next to the whale when it's sprayed to see if they could collect that. But like he said, it takes a lot of people, a lot of time. And with the drone, they're able to do it a lot faster and safer. There's another drone that they use for whale research, and we do quite a bit of whale research through OSU, through our ocean sciences. And there's another bot that is not as famous as SNOTbot, but this one actually follows behind the whales when they surface. And they are observing through video when, well, basically the whale poops. Because whale poop only stays on the surface of the water for a little bit. And what the researchers want to do is collect that poop, that fecal matter, and analyze it to see what the health of the whale is, because they can tell what the whale's been eating, you know, if the whale's healthy or not. Kind of similar to the snot from the whale. You can get a lot of information from whale poop. So obviously another dirty job. So we got this basically drone pooper spotter, right? And they direct the researchers on a little, you know, boat to where the poop is, so they can hurry up within 60, they have to do it within 60 seconds or so, otherwise the poop starts going down into the ocean. And they have this huge pooper scooper that they scoop up the poop with, because the drone's telling them where the poop is, and they can go take it to the lab and research it and find out about the whale health. So let's see, isn't that a OSU researcher who has trained her dog to find the whale poop? Possibly. Not sure about the dog, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I have to look into that. So Lay, boy, what's her last name? Lee, Lay, oh, I forgot the researcher's name, but yes, Lay. She is the whale researcher at OSU, and she uses drones quite a bit for her research. So that's pretty much my presentation. Thank you very much for participating, for asking those great questions. Let's see. Thank you. Gracias. Merci beaucoup. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I have my at OSU EXT Tech Twitter account, or my more famous at Drone Singer account. And just a little glimpse into my job as a technologist within Extension, doing K through 12 STEAM outreach and engagement with silly songs and robots such as drones. And one thing I'm starting to work in is puppetry, right? But music is also part of things. So it's really, you know, STEM is not boring like some people think. You just have to find what is your passion and how you can fit your STEM into your passion. And I've been very fortunate to be able to do all of my passions of aviation, of technology, of music, and of working with technology into this job that I have, you know, which is an actual tech job. Who would have known? So I urge you to find out how you can put your passion in and make a STEM career out of it. Yeah, if there's any questions there, you can contact me, or pre-college programs. Thank you, Emily, for putting on there. See y'all later.